Welcome to the Stronger Than Steel podcast with your host, Austin Davidson and John Keir, talking Steelers all the time. Now, here's Austin and John.
Hello and welcome back to the Stronger Than Steel podcast. My name is John Keir, and joining me as always is my co-host, Austin Davidson.
Hello.
It is season 4, episode 50 already, and Austin, the Pittsburgh Steelers are 8-5-1. They win again on Sunday in Arizona by a final score of 23-17 over the Arizona Cardinals. And once again, not the prettiest game we've ever seen, but we're starting to see a little more of a complete team effort here in the last few weeks. And the Steelers do what they have to do to pick up another win. They're 7th in their last 8 games, believe it or not, after starting 0-3 and then 1-4. The Steelers are now 7-1 in their last 8 games and are still holding on to the number 6 seed in the AFC wild card, with the Titans nipping at their heels. And of course, there's a big game against the number 5 seed Buffalo Bills next Sunday. But this was obviously a big game going out to the West Coast, where the Steelers have typically struggled. But now 2 West Coast games, 2 wins for the Pittsburgh Steelers. So hopefully reversing that narrative a little bit. But of course, it does help when the crowd is such a strong Steelers presence. But that being said, a 23-17 victory. Your initial thoughts from this win?
Well, there's so many good things about this when there's less penalties than the week before. There's tons to hang your hat on, like being able to play without your now top running back, top wide receiver, and top tight end for most of this game, and still be able to win it and have an offensive, not identity, but be able to drive it downfield. There's just so much to take away from this game that was good. There were a few bad things, but overall, it was a win, and it was a good win.
And speaking of good things, taking away some good things, how about the first thing is probably the most productive, in fact, definitely the most productive opening drive of the season. 13 plays, 66 yards, and points. Now, again, part of this was aided due to penalty, a 3rd and 13 that was stopped short of the first down marker around midfield did end up resulting in a penalty. It was, I believe, an unnecessary roughness on Jordan Hicks that gave the Steelers a first down. So they kind of got a freebie there, but the Steelers have not had any freebies on their opening drives this year. What did you see from that opening drive that you really liked? I mean, obviously they had a near explosive play from Jalen Samuels to start, and then they kind of just inched their way closer, but, it was a nice change.
Like the opening game plan, they were able to actually. It was like the first time the opening game plan had worked for the most part. Like you said, it was aided by penalty, but it felt like the offense was a little bit in rhythm. It felt like even if they were stopped, that there was some hope that they weren't going to come out just really slow this game, and they were able to get 3 points for only the second time this year. So it was good. And also, just to say, Jordan Hicks probably should have had a second penalty on that. The play that he knocked off Jalen Samuels' helmet, I don't know if you remember that, was also on the first drive of the game. And so the Steelers almost should have been aided twice. For some reason, it didn't get called because it seems like a hit to the head that should have been called. But, regardless, the opening drive was one that we haven't been accustomed to really this year, besides when in the 49ers game when the defense gave them great starting field position.
Yeah, it was definitely a change from what we've been used to. And something else we're not used to is contribution from the special teams unit, and that came on the Steelers the very next time the Steelers touched the ball. An 85-yard punt return from Deontay Johnson, the rookie. And, that's the first time a Steelers punt return has been returned for a touchdown by someone not named Antonio Brown since Santonio Holmes in the 2009 AFC Championship game. And if you want to talk regular season, I'm pretty sure the last time it happened was 2006 or 2007, I think against the Panthers. So it's been a very long time now. Obviously, a lot of teams have had dangerous returners. The Steelers have had, a cycling through of returners since Antonio Brown was taken off the punt return unit. But Deontay Johnson, I said he was a boom or bust guy, and luckily enough, he came through with a big boom. And of course, it wasn't all just him. The blocking was very good on the play too.
he has been getting better week by week. From the week that we started saying that he's going to be like that boomer bust guy, he kind of cleaned up some technique a little bit. He started holding the ball in a better place, started making moves that were less dangerous. He's getting better as a returner. I don't know if it's just been through practice or what actually happened that he's kind of started changing, but he's getting better, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. And furthermore, to that point, let's talk about Deontay Johnson. So last week was probably his worst week as a professional. He had 2 false start penalties. I think he had a drop. Even a big play where he had a huge third down conversion, he ran out of bounds late in the game when the clock should have continued to run. So he made a lot of mistakes last week, and then to come through this week, 1 week later, with your best performance as a pro, that's very impressive. He had a 16-yard run on an end around. He had 60 receiving yards and a receiving touchdown on top of his punt return touchdown. I really am just proud of the valor and the poise that he showed on Sunday. And, it's another step in the right direction for this receiving core that has been much maligned at the beginning of the year. And, you got several young guys, including guys like James Washington and now Deon Cain. And Johnson has, over the last few weeks, come into his own. And it's been even more impressive that, in my opinion, that him and Washington have been able to do this without Juju Smith-Schuster.
He's had a fantastic bounce-back game coming from last week. He showed a lot of great things, not just in his catches, like he was working back to Devlin Hodges on what was a beautiful 3rd and 13 that essentially sealed the game. It took off just enough clock that Arizona wasn't able to come back on their final drive. But that was one of the great things he did, along with the punt return touchdown we already talked about. He made a nice sideline grab that Devlin Hodges might have delivered a little bit too late. It was in double coverage. He beat Patrick Peterson a lot in this day, which was kind of surprising. I said that Pat Pete was one of the 2 people or 3 people to worry about on Arizona's defense in this game, apart from Chandler Jones, and Johnson just did really well against him. And same for Washington. Washington, not as productive as he had been, but there was still a lot of great things. He drew a defensive pass interference penalty in this game. He caught all 4 of his targets, that's the best you can do. If you're only targeted 4 times and you make 4 catches, that's pretty good. I thought that the wide receivers in this game were great. And I know I texted you during the game, but Kane is slowly becoming the next Kobe Hamilton. That guy that's not going to catch a lot in the game, but he's going to make at least one key catch, one clutch catch when you really need it. And he came through in this game with one long 22-yard catch on third down. It was beautiful. It was over the shoulder. It was a great throw by Devlin Hodges. And he's just slowly becoming the next Kobe Hamilton, which is a good thing, in my opinion.
Yeah, it was a very nice back shoulder throw, turning around and facing the ball. That's something I don't remember seeing much of with Kane before. I mean, I don't know, we haven't known much about what he is, but as a guy at Clemson, I don't remember that being his forte. But here he is, and here are all the receivers, extending the boundaries of what we thought they could do. And it's really nice to see. And another guy who's continued to play well, of course, is Devlin Duck Hodges. 16 of 19 on the day, an efficient 152 passing yards, 1 touchdown, no picks. A game very reminiscent of what we saw from Ben Roethlisberger's rookie season. Efficient, not doing too much, not hurting the team, doing what he has to do, making the plays when he's called upon. And that last play you mentioned previously with Johnson working back to the ball was a vintage sort of big Ben Roethlisberger-esque play, scrambling outside of the pocket and delivering a throw on the money that didn't salt the game away, but put the Steelers in position to basically ice it. That realistically gave them the best chance, gave them a really great chance to win. So that was a huge key play. That was, if you have to circle 5 passes that Duck threw, that late throw to Johnson, the one to Kane, obviously his touchdown pass to Deontay Johnson, those 3 have to be in that list of the 5 most important throws he made on Sunday.
For sure. I think so far that's the best throw he's ever made. So far he's on the run. He got as square as he possibly could and delivered that right to where it needed to be to complete a 3rd and 13. That was one of them, at least maybe not the best, but it's the most important throw he's made of his career, I think, so far. And it was just an overall great throw. And I thought that he played well throughout the game as well. Like I said, there was early on in the game on the forced fumble that was recovered by Matt Filer. he did that thing again where he backed up into pressure, but that was the only time it happened all game. And to be fair, it happened against Chandler Jones, which is who I claim to be the most underrated player in the NFL right now, because he's just so amazing. And just like when you talk about elite pass rushers, he's like never mentioned, probably because he's on one of the worst defenses in the league. But regardless, that was like a thing that I saw early on, but it didn't happen again. And then on that throw that I mentioned to Deontay Johnson that like was between Patrick Peterson, I forget the other person who was in coverage, but he was a little bit slow to deliver that. I wish for a little bit more anticipation out of the break to be able to get that to Deontay Johnson, so it's not as scary. But I mean, he still put it where it needed to be, even if it wasn't if it was a bit late. But overall, I mean, you only throw 3 incompletions on the day. That's a pretty good day for the Duck.
And we saw him use his wheels again on Sunday. And speaking of wheels and rushing yards, the offense for the 3rd straight week in a row has topped, I believe, 115, 120 rushing yards. And it wasn't pretty at times. The running backs, if you add up their totals of just rushing yards, they're averaging just 3.5 yards per carry in this game. But the ground game, again, for the 3rd week in a row, at least the 2nd week in a row, I should say, felt like it was doing just enough to get the job done. And to be honest with you, I really think that's all we really wanted, because for the most part this season we'd seen nothing. And to at least see something, some sort of consistency, at least in terms of production, is good, because there was nothing earlier this year.
And the run game coming on was important. It might be just because the Steelers have played a load of bad teams against the run, and that's why it's being established more. But I did like what I see. Benny Snell didn't finish efficiently, but I thought that even despite that, I was happy with how he played, because he played against a lot of 8-man boxes and stuff like that. And so I was still happy with what he did with the ball in his hand afterwards. I mean, there was that one play, I will say, that he had the fumble, of course, and he lost it, it bounced up. So there was that, but overall I thought he was okay as a runner despite that. Kareth White continues to be pretty good, actually. He had that 13-yard run. And I like him as a change of pace back. And I'll say it again, that he's a nice addition to have, because the Steelers haven't had a back like him in a little while. He's more of a speed back. He's just a guy that runs really fast, hits the hole, and just goes. And we've seen that a lot. He's gotten a bunch of long carries in his short career with the Steelers. And I'm happy with what he's done. Samuels is still Samuels started the game pretty solid. He had a 9-yard run early on in the game, but just as a running back, he just seems to be not that good. He's best as a receiving running back, I think, and it's just the other running backs on the team are better for that for the actual running thing.
Yeah, and furthermore, the pass protection I thought held up okay for the running backs. I can't remember anything in particular. Oh, one thing about Kareth White I did want to mention. This is one minor downside, and I think part of this has to do with the fact that he is so new to the team. Most of the time when he's on the field, he's getting the ball. So, I mean, it hasn't really affected him so far, but that's just something to think about going forward. They probably don't trust him in pass protection because he is smaller. And, with not having much time to do much with the playbook, they probably only want him on the field with plays involving him, I would imagine.
Yeah, that makes sense. They probably just don't trust him yet. We'll have to see. I'm sure over time, as time goes on, they'll trust him a little bit more, even though he is smaller.
Offensive line, I was pleased with their play. The 3 sacks against I didn't think was necessarily their fault. I'm blanking on one of them. I know one of them was that strip sack by Chandler Jones. I think that was just Hodges needed to get rid of the ball a little faster, and there was a coverage sack early. I thought the offensive line played well.
Really only 1 sack was on them of the 3. The other 2 were more on Hodges, and like you said, it was a coverage sack. So, honestly, I thought the offensive line did well. I picked Matt Filer as my X-Factor going into this game because he was going against Chandler Jones. And overall, I thought he did well when he gave up the 1 sack, which was, obviously, we just said it was on Devlin Hodges for the most part. He was able to recover the fumble for Hodges. So I thought Filer did well in that game against one of the best pass rushers in the league. So, and then the rest of the line I thought did well. I actually thought that the middle of the line struggled a little bit against pass rushing early on against Gunter. Gunter was really having a really good time against the interior line, I felt like, in the beginning. But after he got hurt, I felt like everything was a little bit better.
I've liked what I've seen from the offense for the last 2.5 weeks here. But again, only 16 points on offense. I'd really like to see them pass that 21-point margin at some point soon here. I mean, when was the last time the Steelers scored 21 offensive points, man?
I don't know. It's been quite a while, it feels like.
Sure. It was it would have been the Dolphins game. Because, the last 3 victories, they haven't scored 3 offensive touchdowns. They did not against the Rams, obviously didn't against the Browns. The Colts game, Minka Fitzpatrick had that big pick 6, which goes all the way back to the Dolphins game, which would have been week 8 the last time. So that was last time the Steelers wore their color rush too. So it has been a while. The Steelers had a losing record at that time, by the way.
Yeah, man, it's very far away now.
So, I think they're trending in the right direction. Wouldn't you agree?
Oh, I would.
But they still need some more, and hopefully they'll get that shot in the arm with Smith-Schuster and James Conner, hopefully returning on Sunday. But that being said, you're going to have to score at least 3 touchdowns in a game to be able to make it to a Super Bowl. I mean, that's as simple as it is.
And you can't rely on your defense to carry you all the way there. It's just you need to be able to be scoring 3 touchdowns at least every game. You're not going to be able to keep up with the other offenses that will be in the playoffs. They're in there for a reason.
And furthermore, to that point, I actually just wanted to say, I think that, when you're talking about any Super Bowl winning team, you're talking about, even if they are an offensive-minded team or a defensive-minded team, usually there's 1 or 2 games where the weaker side of the ball has to win a game in the playoffs for that team. That's just usually how it works.
Yeah, I agree with that. It's just usually at one point you got to have that one side step up and just be able to carry you. Because every team has their weaknesses, but it's how you overcome those weaknesses in that game. That's the team that wins that game. Is that when they're able to take their weak side of the ball and still work with it.
Exactly, and for instance, the Patriots too last year would have probably been that AFC Championship game. The offense struggled, a lot last year, but they were able to put up, 30 plus points on, yes, a bad Chiefs defense, but they were still able to put up a ton of points. So, that's just, exhibit A, if you will. But anyways, getting off topic here, liked what we saw from the offense, but need to see a little more. On the other side of the ball, Cardinals offense that's kind of been in flux this year. They were an air raid system early on, but now they've been running the ball a lot more. Kyler Murray held in check for the most part, but he did make a couple nice throws. He was pretty much a non-factor on the ground. Several nice individual efforts on 3 different plays to hem in Kyler Murray between Bud Dupree, Terrell Edmonds, and Minka Fitzpatrick in this game. The Cardinals, they had a few runs that were pretty nice, but I felt for the most part that they were bottled up pretty well. And they just, outside of Christian Kirk, Kyler Murray couldn't get anything established with anybody.
Yeah, I think that the Steelers were able to do exactly what I needed them to do coming into this game. I said that they really need to stop the run and force Kyler Murray to throw, and I felt like they did a really good job at it. I mean, their leading rusher had 37 yards, and that was from Kenyon Drake, and the longest run they had all day was a 10-yard run from him. So I think overall they did well, and you look at how Kyler Murray rushed. He rushed 6 times for 2 yards. That's exactly what you wanted, especially going into this stretch where you have quarterbacks that are all so mobile. You started with Baker Mayfield, who's really good at getting out of the pocket. Now you have Kyler Murray. Next week you have Josh Allen, who people might think that he's not that mobile, but I mean he's one of the better rushing quarterbacks in the league right now, which would be weird to say. You got Lamar Jackson coming up or RG3, depending on how the game goes. Just a bunch of mobile quarterbacks coming up. So this is a good test to be able to get the defense working against that going forward, and they played it really well.
Yeah, they definitely passed with flying colors, and on those specific plays, all 3 guys showed fantastic leverage and technique overall when trying to hem in Murray. And the instinct showed by Minka Fitzpatrick on that play, That's why you got that guy. And for as much as we've said that this year for the interceptions, the forced fumbles that he's had this year, you also got him for plays like that where he instantly recognizes that Murray has the ball and he rushes up to the line to stop him. That was just, again, another elite play from an elite player.
This is why you go get yourself a Minkah Fitzpatrick, because he has the instincts, he has the ball skills, he really does it all. He tackles pretty well. I just think that really it was a great trade, and you saw it in this game. Reason why he wasn't just brought in for his ball skills, he was brought in for his instincts.
Another guy with good ball skills the last few weeks has been Joe Hayden. He comes up with 2 interceptions, giving him 4 on the season. So, after going 9 years without having one player with 4 interceptions in a single season for the Steelers defense, the longest streak in NFL history, they now have 2 players with 4 interceptions. How about that? Joe Hayden, go ahead.
Sorry, yeah, pretty great. Joe Hayden, I had just called, I don't know if I tweeted, but it's like, I think 3 weeks ago, I was like, man, Joe Hayden's got some stone hands. He's so great at breaking up the pass. He's got some stone hands. And then, like, the following 2 weeks, he's like, here, let me catch an interception, and then let me catch 2 more in this game. So he's only gotten better over the past, since I at the least thought it, that he had stone hands.
Yeah, this is going to finish as probably his best statistical season as far as defensive numbers go since his rookie season in Cleveland. I think that was his most active interception season. I'll have to look at that later. But again, more splash plays from the defense, and they only gave up 1 long touchdown drive. They gave up, a field goal drive that was set up from a fumble from Benny Snell, which they gave up just 22 yards. The second touchdown, a 32-yard drive, which again, Terrell Edmunds, we were just talking about it before we started recording here. That, he was in perfect position. It's a story of his career so far. He's got the athletic traits. He's been able, he's not the best tackler in open space, but he makes plays. I thought he was playing well in this game, but in that situation, you have to be able to come up with that ball. He was there. The play is there to be made, and you have to make it, and he just didn't make it.
He took a bad angle, somehow an angle that made him slower and just way too low. I don't really understand, because if he went up the right angle, he would have made it there faster, first of all, which that wasn't necessary. He made it to where he needed to go, but it was just so confusing. He was there. He could have had his second career interception, and he should have, but it's just not good enough. Not good enough play from him in that specific moment.
In that one particular area, the ball skills and the instincts have been a struggle for him. And, we both criticized the pick at the time, and the issue was, is he an impact player? Is this a guy you could have gotten later in the draft? Because you draft those guys in the first round to make impact, like a Devin Bush or, like a TJ Watt. When you draft a guy like Terrell Edmunds, you're hoping to get that kind of contribution, and it's forgivable in year 1, and usually it's somewhat forgivable in year 2. But the difference between a second-year player and Terrell Edmunds, who is a second-year player, yes, I know, I think he's only 22 years old, so I'm sure there's still room to grow a little bit. The problem is he's played so many snaps over the last 2 years. How much better can he really get? Now, I'm still hopeful that he can get a little better, but the fact that he has played so many snaps leads me to believe that there's not a ton of room for growth, i.e. he can get a little better, but he's not going to become that huge impact player like Minkah Fitzpatrick on the other side, which again, maybe he doesn't need to be, but of course you'd really like to see more than 1 turnover in almost 2 full seasons.
Yeah, his instincts aren't there. When you don't have instincts, it's just like you can't really learn instincts. It's like the reverse. That's the opposite of what instincts are. Instincts are just natural. You have them or you don't. And it just really doesn't seem like he has that. So it's hard to really improve for him. I mean, he could become better as a tackler. I've seen some good things from him as a tackler, but there's always room for improvement. He could get a little bit better in coverage, but he really needs to get better with his ball skills and instincts, which I don't know if that's possible. There's hope, like you said, but it's just not. I don't have high hope for that.
Yeah, I think he can get a little better, but not leaps and bounds better than what he's shown.
Yeah.
Which, again, you can live with, but, I think at the end of the day, that's going to be the main criticism with Edmunds is that you wanted to get an impact player, and is he really an impact player? And what really sucks about it is if he takes just a slightly different angle, he probably makes that play. And then what's the narrative on Edmonds? Well, maybe he's turned a corner.
It would have been almost a whole different story for him after this game, but we got this story instead.
And as a result, the Cardinals were able to make it a 20-17 game. And then the Steelers came up with a huge, important drive that resulted in a field goal. Several big throws from Hodges, like we talked about, and the Steelers were able to come away with the victory. Who are we missing here? We didn't talk about the pass rush that just all over Kyler Murray, Bud Dupree, T.J. Watt, and the gang come up with 5 sacks on Murray. Just all around overwhelming a weak Cardinals offensive line. I think they did about what I expected them to do there too.
Yeah, just sad. Watt's sack streak came to an end in this game. He was still very impactful. Just because he didn't get a sack in this game didn't mean that he wasn't impactful. I'm still waiting for Bud Dupree to get credited with another half sack for this game and get up to 10 sacks in the year. His sack wasn't credited all the way, at least. It was counted as a team sack when he's the one that finished it off when Kyler Murray fumbled and recovered it. So that was a little bit interesting. He should be at 10 sacks, but officially he's not. He's at 9.5. But Bud Dupree had a hell of a game in this game. Just continues being on a streak. He's currently on pace to probably be, after T.J. Watt won Defensive Player of the Month last month, Dupree is on pace to win Defensive Player of the Month this month with his strip sacks, his normal sacks, is just how many tackles he's getting. He's doing really well this month. And then just to go off from other players, I liked what I saw from Barron when he rushed. He got the first sack of the game. Mark Barron, on a separate note, had actually a pretty solid game, I would say, as a whole in this game, especially compared to some of his other games. This is a good game for Barron, which I said that the inside linebackers would be important, and I chose the wrong two. I chose Devin Bush over Mark Barron, but both inside linebackers were able to get a sack, and they did well in this game. Just all in all, the pass rush was able to get there however the Steelers wanted it. The Steelers were able to have Murray under pressure almost every play, it felt like. It felt like no matter what, there's pressure coming from one side, whether it would come from the defensive linemen or from the linebackers. The defensive linemen didn't get really on the stat sheet, but what they did pressure-wise was great.
Yeah, they had 5 sacks and 6 other quarterback hits. So, Murray dropped back 35 times and was impacted on 11 of them. So that's that's pretty good. Only the 2 touchdowns against. One of them we already talked about. The other one was just a mesh concept where Joe Hayden got lost in the wreckage. But only one long touchdown drive given up. The defense continues to perform at an elite level. Let's move to special teams now. We're going to save our talk for the fake punt for later, but the kick return game struggled again. Deontay Johnson, we already talked about that punt return touchdown. Boswell continues to do Boswell things. Barry, when he was punting the ball, did a really good job. Now, that being said, one of his really long punt, I think it was a 60-plus yarder, he did kind of outkick the coverage, so that's probably a little on him. But my God, that ball was flying forever. I knew he had it in him.
That felt like it was up in the air forever, and I still count the tackling being so terrible on that. That was such a really good punt, and the coverage team let it be returned 20 yards, where there was a guy there to tackle. There was a few guys there to tackle, and just maybe not at the catch point, but you got to be able to make the tackles. You got to be able to run down your man on special teams. It was a great, fantastic punt, and like you said, this whole special teams is a mixed bag. In this game, there's a lot of really good, and then there's some really, really bad.
Yeah, and I guess why don't we segue into that? Unless if there's anything else about the game that you wanted to touch on, because I think that if there isn't, we can kind of transition into this fake punt thing.
I think we could talk about the fake punt.
Okay. Did Jordan Berry just sabotage his chances at the Pro Bowl by doing that?
Probably. It sucks. Because, it's hard to... You have to blame Jordan Berry for it because the offensive line called it off, and like I guess he said he couldn't hear the offensive line. I'm sure like the offensive line tried and he just missed it. But like you got to be able to like, there's got to be signals or something that you know that this is being called off, because it just looked so bad when it was happening. It looked really, really terrible because the offensive line knew that they were calling it off, and Barry said he didn't hear it being 15 yards back. But I mean,
here's all you have to do.
Bad play call. Tomlin said that was his choice, but I mean, how much? I blame it 75% Barry, 25% Tomlin, because there was a kill switch in it. Obviously, the offensive lineman called it off because they saw something that they didn't like, and so there was a kill switch in it. So can I really even blame Tomlin for calling it if there was a way to take it down, if there wasn't something they liked there? I can't
think so.
Really. I put a little bit of blame for calling it there when you should just be punting and trusting your defense. But other than that, it was a bad decision by Barry.
I don't know, man. I think you could still blame Tomlin. You know how you can tell Barry to not do it?
I'm out.
Have the personal protector turn around to Barry and signal like the throat slash thing, like we're killing this. No, that's all it takes, and it didn't happen. So yeah, Tomlin deserves blame for that.
Yeah, they should have did why can't I think of his name? Not Adam Vinatieri, the old Colts punter that retired early.
Oh, Pat McAfee. I saw a comment.
Dude, we're not kicking it. I mean, we're not running it. We're not running it. Like, you ever hear that him talk about that on the podcast?
It's amazing. And I actually watched the highlights. I love watching the highlights as soon as they're posted on YouTube. And the top comment, like on the fake, I saw was like, at Pat McAfee, is this what would have happened if you tried running through the C gap with Polamalu there? And
just incredible stuff.
So
that's what they should have done. They should have turned around and said, "We're not doing it, boys. Barry, don't do it."
But obviously, it was a huge mistake, and one that resulted in Cardinals points. And I guarantee you, that's not going to happen again. I don't think Jordan, because you heard Barry talking after the game. He's everyone's releasing because it was such a bizarre looking play because there's Barry taking off like he's fully 100% confident he's doing what he should be doing, but no one else blocked for him. So as soon as he gets the ball and he starts running, he's like, there's two men who are left unblocked coming to kill me. And he's like, I think he said exactly like verbatim, like, oh, this is going to hurt.
The poor guy got walloped, too. Jordan Berry just got smacked and fumbled the ball as well. It was just all around terrible.
Yeah, and luckily it didn't come back to bite the Steelers, but, like you said, a mixed bag from special teams. I don't really know what to make of it. I mean, the punt return was fantastic. This was a huge debacle, and I guess I guess we shouldn't even include the kick returning as part of it anymore. We just know what it is. If they get anything more than a 25-yard return, we'll do jumping jacks.
It just sucks that every time you see the team opponent like just kick it right at the 1 yard line, and you're like, damn it, they have to return it, and it's just gonna go to like the 16 every time. Just really sucks.
Yeah, I don't know what it's gonna take for that to change, but I'm not hopeful that any change is going to happen this year. So that being said, Steelers 8-5. Remember, last year they were 7-5-1 at this point. So the Steelers, with all this going on, have a better record than they did at this point last year, and are very much alive in the playoffs. They still hold the number 6 seed. And with that being said, why don't we take a look around what happened? Take a look at what happened around the league in Week 14, and we can kind of piece together this playoff picture a little bit more.
That's good.
Alrighty, so this was a really good week for both of us as far as our picks go. We absolutely were on fire this week. This might be the best week we both have ever had as far as picking against the spread.
I think so, since like week one. Week one we both did pretty well, but for sure I don't think we both did this well. Especially, I don't think any of us have gone 13-3, so...
Yeah, Austin went 10-6 this week, and I went 13-3 this week. I really wish we had kept track of this stuff, or I had thought to keep better track of this stuff over the last couple years, because This is stuff that I am kind of interested in. Maybe that'll be an off-season project I can kind of look into.
Maybe we'll look at our overall records.
Yeah, see how we're doing. But in any case, let's get into the first game. The Panthers and the Falcons. The Panthers coming off their first. This is their first game with interim head coach Perry Fewell after Ron Rivera was relieved of his duties, and the Panthers sure looked like a team that had mailed it in and is ready for 2020. The Falcons put up a 40-burger on them and doubled them up 40-20. Not much to say about the Falcons, in my opinion. They're just, they're playing spoiler and they're having fun doing it, and the Panthers, like I said, have mailed it in.
At the moment, Atlanta's just ruining their high draft choice chance. They could have been, just 3 weeks ago, they really could have been playing for Chase Young. Now they're probably playing themselves out of that by far, since he's going to be the number 1 or 2 pick, depending on if it's the Bengals first or not. But regardless, yeah, it's just, I don't have much to say about the actual game.
The Ravens at Bills, one of the highlighted early games. The Ravens come away with a narrow 24-17 victory in Orchard Park. This game probably felt a little closer from what I understand than it actually was, but the Bills did have a chance to tie it up late, and pass at the goal line for Cole Beasley was broken up, and the Bills fall to 9-3. And they're still alive in the AFC East divisional race, but again, they're right there for the taking for the Steelers this week. And the Ravens, not their most impressive day, but another win for the Baltimore unit.
Yeah, but Buffalo on defense is able to get a pick on Lamar Jackson, which is the first time he's thrown a pick since the Steelers game, which is kind of incredible, where he threw 3. Jackson was on a pretty good throwing streak, and then just both these offenses are kind of funny because they don't really rely on throwing. At least, the Bills tried throwing a lot in this game. Josh Allen was at 40, but he only completed 17 attempts, and same with Lamar Jackson. Lamar Jackson was only asked to throw 25 times, only completed 16. So they're really weird teams for the year we're in. I don't know, seeing non-pass heavy teams being successful is sort of weird.
Yeah, these are two teams that are kind of bucking the trend of what we're used to seeing in the NFL these days. Maybe this is the new trend that will eventually take over.
Yeah, because Steelers are in that boat right now too, and they're in the playoff contention.
Yeah, and talk about, Josh Allen got absolutely beat up in this game. I'm sure he's sore today, and I'm sure he's real thrilled to be facing the team with the most sacks in the NFL this week, too.
Yeah, man, suffered 6 sacks last week.
He got hit 12 times, too.
I'm sorry, what?
He got hit 12 times, too.
Oh, man, that's absolutely terrible. I didn't know that, but, yeah, some of it was poor planning. Did you see that Judon got put on their smallest running back? I forget who it was, but the Ravens' best pass rusher was left alone with a Bills tiny running back, and he ran over him and just got a sack. It was absolutely disgusting.
I need to say this, and I don't know who, someone needs to hear it. Offensive coordinators need to hear it. Stop putting your bad pass protecting running backs and especially your tight ends on premier pass rushing defensive ends. It doesn't go well.
It does not.
I shouldn't have to tell you that, but it still happens.
So our man's LJ Fort got a sack in that game. He's lit.
He is. He's awesome. I hate watching him do what he's doing right now because it just pains me.
It is painful.
Painful would be another way to describe the Cleveland Browns after another victory. But again, Odell Beckham Jr. takes the headlines after a whole bunch of nonsense about him maybe wanting out of the Cleveland Browns organization and telling other coaches on other teams that he wants that too. Oh man, the Browns won and their playoff hopes are still alive, but realistically they're out of it. And even when they win, they lose. That's how it's been this year for them.
Absolutely terrible. The Browns are a mess with drama and with how they've actually played. Their offense, people are calling it a mess, and that's reasonable. I mean, look at the firepower that offense has, the pure firepower. They have a sophomore quarterback that's been playing well over the past 6 weeks. Didn't start well, but he is playing well now. They have Nick Chubb, who I don't know how other people think of him. I personally love Nick Chubb. Kareem Hunt is as dynamic as it comes. Then you have Odell Beckham and Jarvis Landry as wide receivers. and your tight end Njoku's just came back from IR for this game. He's pretty good, and you have Ricky Seals-Jones is also a decent tight end, and they're just not performing. The offensive line is still definitely hurting this team, but I mean, they played well against the best pass rush in the league like twice. Like they played well against the Steelers, and so like I know they have it in them. And so like they're kind of inept, and we're saying this after a 27-19 victory, but just they're a mess. They're an uncohesive unit.
They struggled. They struggled with the Bengals, who the Steelers struggled with the Bengals too. But Devlin Hodges throwing to Deion Kane is different than Baker Mayfield throwing to Odell Beckham Jr. and Jarvis Landry.
100%. Like that's a way better offense, or should be on paper.
And once again, just a mess for the Browns, who are 6-7, but are facing quite an uphill battle right now. And the game everyone thought, you know what, Austin? Remember when everyone, the Steelers would always, have these huge wins against teams that, really good teams, and then they'd play terrible teams and they'd lose and they'd look like crap? That's the Texans right now. The game that no one saw coming, the Houston Texans coming off a huge win over the New England Patriots on primetime, come back home and host the Denver Broncos for their second straight home game. And Drew Lock in his second straight start gives the Broncos a 38 burger on the Texans, and I think it was like 38-17 at one point. This game was embarrassing. I don't know how anyone could trust the Texans right now. I don't know what they are.
I said it. I'm gonna take my credit where credit is due. I said this was the biggest trap game if I've ever seen it. I even said that I thought the Broncos were winning this game because I was like, there's way too much of a spread for a rookie quarterback that has played well for 2 games, and the Texans' defense just has been questionable the past couple of games. I mean, they beat the Patriots, but the Patriots' offense is kind of
hot garbage.
Just not good at them. Yeah, they're just not good right now. So I had called this as being a trap game, and I had picked the Broncos plus 9.5 with the idea that they would win this game. And Drew Lock is making me eat my words so far. He's been playing really well. The sample size is still small. But I thought Drew Lock wasn't going to be good, and so far he's been doing great. He's been doing fantastic. So there's that. And you said that the Texans are like the Steelers. You really... they're really close to how the Steelers were, because they also, before this last game, right, the Steelers were tied for the least opening drive points this year with the Texans and the Bengals. So, and now the Bengals and Texans are tied for the least amount of opening drive points with 3. So they are really similar to how the Steelers used to be, because the Steelers used to open up games really slow as well. I mean, they're doing it this year as well, but you know my point. You know what I'm saying.
Yeah, I got you. And the AFC South race is going to be really interesting here, because the Texans and Titans, who are tied for the division lead right now, are playing twice in the next 3 weeks. So, Steelers fans should keep an eye on that. I guess we would technically want, I think it's the Titans, because I think the Texans have a better conference record than the Titans right now.
So when we want the Texans to win?
I think. Look, whoever wins, we want we want the team that wins this game to also win in Week 17.
I'm pretty sure if the Titans won and in this scenario, the Steelers keep winning until they match up for the first time. I'm pretty sure if the Titans win the next one, the Texans. Oh no, I'm confused. I'm just all confused. Never mind.
We got to get the ESPN playoff machine up here.
Yeah, man, it's just gonna be all sorts of confusing.
I'm trying to pull it up right now, because now you got me interested.
Whatever team wins, I think we want them to win twice. I think that's the best way to say it.
Yeah, that's what I was getting at. Yeah.
And we need the Titans to win twice, because that would be the most helpful, I think. And then if the Texans win, you want the Texans to beat the Titans on the second time as well, so they keep a foothold on that division.
So if the Steelers lose on Sunday night to the Bills, a Texans win would do the Steelers more. That would be better, because a Titans win would put the Texans in the wild card spot, knocking the Steelers out, while the Titans would go to the 4 seed. A Texans win would keep the Titans out of the playoffs, keeping basically everything as is. So we should be rooting for the Texans.
Okay, yeah. So I thought that's what made sense. I think we wanted Texans control their division. Yeah.
Just stay the course. All right, next game, not a whole lot to say. The Vikings controlled and beat the Detroit Lions. They did what they were supposed to do.
Yeah. Thank God for the 0.5 points in the spread. We just same for the Bengals-Browns game. The 0.5 is what got us to just get the spreads in that game.
Yeah, so we had great weeks, but it was very easily could have been not as great as well. And one game that was surprising was the fact that the Packers only beat the Redskins by 5 points. I don't know what to make of the Packers this year. At some points, I think they're a really good team, but I'm not convinced right now. They're solid, but they're not going to be at that top class of NFC teams this year.
Really? I feel like it depends on how Aaron Jones does. I feel like they, I don't know.
He was really
they struggled in this game, and Aaron Jones went off.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
I take that back. But
yeah, that was my point. Was that when Aaron Jones is going off, they're much more likely to do well. But he did go off this week, and they did only win by 5 points against a dumpster fire.
They lost to the Eagles, man, and the Eagles are just terrible. Eagles are bad.
The NFC East is just woo.
They should make it a rule just that an extra NFC team can make it in this year, just if they're better than the NFC East, which is a bunch of teams.
Oh man, and one of those teams would be the Buccaneers, who come away with a 38-35 victory against the Colts, all but ending the Colts' playoff chances. The Buccaneers were actually mathematically eliminated this week. Oh man, never go full Jameis, man. Dude could lead the NFL in touchdowns and interceptions, and that's what he's been all about.
It's incredible, dude. He has these wacky stat lines where he throws for 456 yards, 4 touchdowns, and 3 interceptions. And it's just what other quarterback has ever done that? There's really not a quarterback that they're not wow, you throw a lot of interceptions, we're going to ask you to throw a little bit less. It's because their running game just isn't good either. I don't know if it's really the run blocking or more of Jones and Barber aren't that good, but it's just they're a wacky offense, that's for sure.
And they have 2 deathly scary receivers in Chris Godwin and Mike Evans on the outside. It's you kind of almost have to keep throwing the ball with those guys. And it's you know what? You take the picks as it's just part of what it is. And, I'll say this about Jameis. He might be the most bizarre quarterback I think I've ever seen, but my God, is that entertaining.
It is entertaining football, yeah, especially if you like offenses and turnovers.
And a lower scoring, exciting game, if you like bad teams, is the Miami Dolphins and New York Jets matchup that ended in a 22-21 victory for the Jets. I didn't see any of this game, so I have no comment on it.
Looks like the Miami Dolphins scored 3 touchdowns, but little do you know, they scored 7 field goals in this game. It was incredible stuff. He's definitely going to win Special Teams Player of the Week, Sanders. But I found that funny. I didn't realize till after. I'm watching the score. I saw the score at the end. I was like, oh yeah, I guess the Miami kept it close. I guess that I guess that they got a couple touchdowns in this game, and it was nope, all field goals.
He missed one too.
Oh, he would have been. Is that the league tying, right? The most in a game is 8?
I don't know, actually. That's a good question.
8. I think he would have tied it if he didn't miss that one.
My goodness. He was 7 of 8, so his field goal percentage on the day was 87.5%, and his season total is 78.3, so he missed a kick and still managed to have a better field goal percentage on the day after missing one than he has had all season. Good for him, man.
It's incredible stuff, dude.
I can't remember the last time. I didn't even think about that because I remember Will had mentioned that to me, but it didn't even occur to me looking at the score. It was just touchdowns, blah, blah, blah. No, dude just went in there and booted seven times through. Remember, Boswell hit 6 in that playoff game against the Chiefs where he was the only offense, but Sanders one-upped him here.
Man.
One of the games of the year, especially if you like offense, I personally am not as big about it, but I mean, it was definitely an entertaining game. The 49ers and Saints down to the wire until George the Man Kittle doing George Kittle things, carrying dudes on his back 30 yards down the field, setting up the 49ers and Robbie Gould for the game-winning kick. And the Niners emerged as probably the best team in the NFC. I mean, are you going to debate the Seahawks or Saints, Austin? I mean, I think the Niners have the slight edge as the best team in the NFC right now.
The Niners seem to be like the clear Super Bowl favorite, I think. I mean, if Seattle didn't lose to the Rams, I know we haven't gotten to that yet, but if Seattle didn't lose to the Rams, especially in the way they did, you could make the argument for Seattle because Seattle would have had the tiebreaker and Seattle would still be the better seed where 49ers would have fell to a wild card seed since the Seahawks beat them once. But I think that on the second time over, I think the 49ers are going to win that Seahawks game, and I think that that overall they're going to be the way better team going into the playoffs.
This was a great game, though, at least from an entertainment perspective. I didn't see the early part of it. I saw the end, and the end was very exciting.
I was surprised that both offenses were able to put so much up in that game when both defenses are actually pretty solid. Like, I know that the Saints lost Marcus Davenport in that game, but, like, I didn't think that would make a difference for them. And the 49ers are still the 49ers. I have no idea what happened. Also, did you see Emmanuel Sanders throw a touchdown pass in that? Because it was awesome.
I did hear that he had, and, again, this was surprising because they are two defensive-minded teams. But, no, I did not see the play, but I did hear about it.
Emmanuel Sanders decided to have himself a game. He had 7 receptions, 157 yards, a touchdown, and then completed his one pass for 35 yards and a touchdown. Absolute insane numbers from him.
Oh, there's a stat. We're getting into this next game. I'm really interested in it now. It's a nice point differential statistic. So we're going to be talking a second here about the Chargers and Jaguars. What a blowout. Man, the Jaguars, again, another one of those teams that have mailed it in, and they're going to get Doug Marrone fired, man.
They're terrible. That one-year wonder thing is crazy to look back on. Like, they were really good just 2 years ago. Like, they were in that AFC Championship game. They had beaten the Steelers, and now they're just there. They're just another team that's like going to be 6-10 or like maybe 7, if that. Like, they're just another one of those middle of the pack, below average teams.
Okay, here's what I wanted to tell you. So, the point differential, that usually tells you how good a team is playing. The AFC South leading Houston Texans have a point differential of +8 at 8-5. The Chargers at 5-8 have a +38.
Wow, that's kind of incredible. I think it reflects on how the Chargers really are the past 2 seasons because the Chargers last year weren't that good. Look at their record. It's great. It's fine. It's a really good record. But, like, there were so many games where it was like, well, if this just went one other way, this could have been different. You even saw in the Steelers game. We saw that firsthand. Like, that game was extremely close. The Chargers won a lot of games in the skin of their teeth last year that just happened to fall in their lap, in their way. This year, that's not happening. This year, it's falling the other way, where games are like they're leaning towards the other side. The Chargers just play a lot of close games that are like 50-50 coin flips, I feel.
Yeah, and it's similar to how the Steelers won a bunch of those one-score games in 2017 and then lost a good amount of them last year, too. So, we've seen that as well with the Steelers, and it's one of those things where usually if you win a lot of close one-score games, typically there's going to be a correction. That's just simply how it is. It's just you can't play that many one-score games and win all the time.
Exactamente.
All right, continuing to move into the later games, the Titans and Raiders played to an exciting 21-21 score, and then all of a sudden the Titans were like, wait a minute, we're better than this. And then they blew them out 42-21, and Ryan Tannehill is the best, as of the last 3 weeks, is the best quarterback in football, and I never saw that coming.
Yeah, him, and not only is he the best quarterback, Derrick Henry's probably been the best running back in football over the last 3 weeks. Incredible stuff from Henry. I'm pretty sure over the last 3 weeks he has over 350 yards and 5 touchdowns. Like, that's incredible stuff, because I'm pretty sure 3 weeks ago he got 2 touchdowns. Last week he got 1, and this week he got another 2. Crazy. Absolutely playing out of their mind. And then A.J. Brown, man, the guy that I thought was going to be the best wide receiver out of this class, 5 catches, 153 yards, 2 touchdowns, balling out. This game literally caused 3 veterans to be fired from Oakland afterwards. I've never seen, like, that many, like, well-known players fired. Not well-known, but TJ Swearinger got fired, Preston Brown got fired, and then I forget the other one. He was on the defensive line. The name's not going to come to me before the end of this, but 3 veterans got fired after this game because of how the defense played. And it's just kind of crazy. Oakland, just 2 weeks ago, was in talks to possibly maybe dethrone the Chiefs for the division, and the Chiefs just blew them out, and they've just been reeling ever since.
Yeah, I think it was a little bit of fool's gold with the Raiders, and the fact is I think they're about a year or 2 away. But, still good progress this year.
But yeah.
Chiefs and Patriots. The Chiefs come in and knock off the Patriots, who are now 10-3, and the Chiefs narrowing the gap between them. It wasn't pretty for Kansas City, but they did what they had to do to come away with the win. The Patriots got a little unlucky with some officiating calls there. Not that anyone's going to complain or cry for that on their behalf, but, the Patriots have not looked good for a couple months now, and they continue to struggle on the offensive side. Just 16 points against the Chiefs' typically struggling defense, and even an injured Patrick Mahomes is able to put up 23 points on that really great Patriots defense. And, again, I'm still not going to say that they're dead, but there's definitely some concerns.
And the Patriots, I think that they had started turning it back on at this time last year. I'm pretty sure in the beginning of December they were able to start getting their offense back together. Just this year, it doesn't seem like it started yet. But there is cause for concern. But like you said, N'Keal Harry was in bounds for that play that people are calling controversial. It is what it is. I mean, you have to outplay the refs, and to say that I can't say I feel bad for the Patriots with all the calls they've gotten in like the past just 3 years and overtime. Like, how can I feel bad? Like, they're one of the teams that get screwed over the least, in my opinion. At least it feels like. So I can't feel bad, and I still thought that they should if they couldn't put up more points on Kansas City's defense, that's on them.
100%. Sunday night, you already kind of alluded to it, the Seahawks and Rams. The Rams bludgeon the Seahawks, and, the Rams are still alive. It seems like they might have figured it out, which is, give the ball to your best player. It only took 3/4 of the year, but they finally started doing it.
It's just kind of crazy stuff. I watched this game, and it was just like 21-3 going into the half. I was like, what is happening, dude? I had no idea that the Seahawks would play so bad, but it just did. Like, it just was. And it really, what I think it was? I thought it was the offensive line. The offensive line for Seattle played terrible in this game. I watched the entire second half, and it was just awful. It was Russell Wilson's under pressure on every single throw. Every single time he's dropping back, he's under pressure. He's about to get sacked or something. They give him 5 sacks in this game, but it's just absolutely terrible stuff, in my opinion.
I did have a good feeling about the Rams in this one, just because they did. Remember, a Greg Zuerlein missed kick in Seattle as time expired kept them from beating Seattle in Seattle. So I felt like the Rams had a good chance, but I didn't see them just dominating them the way that they did. But that being said, the Niners back in front in the NFC playoffs because of this loss by the Seahawks, and the Niners are back out in front. And that brings us to Monday Night Football, the New York Giants and the Philadelphia Eagles. Eli Manning gets what could be his last start, and he looks great in the first half. 2 touchdown passes to your boy, Darius Slayton. But the offense goes into hibernation in the second half, and the Eagles are able to scrape by with I'm going to call an undeserved overtime victory.
Just incredible. I don't think I've ever seen a team play with 1 wide receiver. Yeah, that was just kind of crazy. And what made me laugh is, I don't know if you heard this story, Josh McCown was warming up to play wide receiver because they were down to just, I believe his name is Greg Dortch. I don't actually know Greg Ward Jr., not Dortch. It's just that was their only healthy wide receiver at the end of the game, which is incredible stuff.
Dude, the Eagles are just... The Cowboys have done everything in their power to hand them the division the last few months, and the Eagles just seem to... they're just refusing to take it.
Saying, no, Chief, we don't want to be in there. We don't want to be the one that's embarrassed on live TV with everyone watching.
I just don't even know what to make of it, man. It's ridiculous.
And people want to expand the playoffs to multiple teams, have more bad teams in. I can't wait.
And that wraps up Week 14 around the NFL season. This week is the last week of Thursday Night Football, so actually let's get that pick in real quick. And it's a real barn burner with the Ravens and Jets. And the Ravens are hosting the Jets, I believe.
Yeah, it's Jets at Ravens.
Yep, so, yeah. I'd be shocked if this is anything less than a 14-point game. The Jets are 14.5-point underdogs to the Ravens. How do you see this one shaking out?
I got to pick the Ravens to cover here. I just don't have any faith in the Jets to be able to keep up with this team. And they play so bad. They play so poorly. I can't see the Ravens playing slow here, especially the Ravens have so much, not so much on the line in this game, but I mean, first of all, they win the division. Then, further than that, they win and Patriots, Kansas City loses, they clutch a first-round bye. They win, and then the Patriots lose. They get a first-round bye throughout the entire playoffs. So they're playing for a lot in this game. I mean, it's not likely that New England is going to lose because New England is playing Cincinnati, but you never know what happens. And, I mean, they're still – if Kansas City loses, which they're playing Denver, which is red hot right now, that's possible. They win, Denver loses. It's just they're going to be have a clutch first-round bye going into the playoffs just by Week 15, which is awesome for them.
Yeah, they have a chance to really put the foot on the gas pedal still, and I have no reason to think that they're not going to absolutely crush them. So give me the Ravens to cover as well. All right, let's get into some Steelers news. You had something you wanted to bring up regarding the salary cap.
Yes. So the salary cap is going up. The NFL has informed teams today that the 2020 salary cap will be somewhere between $196.8 million to $201.2 million. The salary cap for 2019 was $188.2 million, just to give you guys a reminder. So at the very least, it's going up about $8 million, 8.6 to be exact. That would give the Steelers a lot of money to put to some good, and that's a good start to get paying Bud Dupree. You'd only have to make a few cuts, and if it gets to that like maximum of 2 or 1, you could just pay. You might be able to pay Bud Dupree outright without making any cuts. It's a little bit cheap. You'd still have to probably work some money around, but this is good news for the Steelers.
Very, very good news indeed. And more good news with the Steelers now playing on Sunday night against the Bills. It was not originally a primetime game. The Steelers have announced that they're going to be wearing their Color Rush uniforms. And if you're wondering why that's good news, it's because the Steelers are a perfect 5-0 when they're wearing the Color Rush jerseys. They wore them earlier this year in a 27-14 victory over the Miami Dolphins on Monday Night Football. And they score, on average, in these 5 games, 31.4 points per game while giving up just 17.8. So the Steelers have blown out teams with these jerseys on, and it's just a magical feel. And the Steelers are trying to add to that environment at Heinz Field, and it should be rocking on Sunday night.
Oh, yeah. This is going to be great. It's going to be a great atmosphere. Just going to be overall a pretty good game fighting for that 5th seed. It's a big deal for both teams. Like, if the Bills win, they can clutch the playoffs. Steelers win, they get that much closer to in. And Bills lose this. If I was a Bills fan, I'd kind of be clutching at something, kind of be a little bit scared with Titans knocking right behind them, and they'd be dropped down to the same record as the Titans if they were to win. So it's pretty scary.
Bills would also be rooting for the Texans because the Bills have the head-to-head against Tennessee this year.
Yes.
All right, let's move on to NFL news. So, Austin, what is going on with the Patriots again?
So the Patriots might have been caught cheating in Spygate 2.0. They were reportedly caught recording plays and signals from the Cincinnati Bengals, reportedly for a segment for, I believe it's Do Your Job. I think that's the name of it. It's a show that they do. They did on the Panthers this last season.
All or Nothing?
But,
I don't think it's All or Nothing. I think it's just the Patriots TV show.
Oh, maybe it is. Regardless, they're going over the tape now because apparently there were a Bengals personnel caught wind of it, saw them in the box, and were like, "That's weird." Went to a Bengals executive, and they're like, "That's weird." And then they brought it up to the NFL as a whole, and they're like now looking into it as a matter of if they're recording hand signals and plays and so on and so forth. So, I don't know what to make of it, to be honest. Do you have anything to say?
No, I'm not sure what's going on. I want to wait to see if more details come out, but you already know how it is with the Patriots. It's stuff like this that comes up, and typically where there's smoke, there's fire. But I'm just annoyed because I know that this is going to be a topic of conversation for like what feels like forever, and I'm already sick of it.
Yeah. Yep, I can't wait for all the stories about it, how they cheated against like the worst team in the league.
All right, beyond that, there were a ton of injuries around the NFL, and with many team seasons coming to an end, a lot of guys went on injured reserve, including wide receiver Marvin Jones of the Detroit Lions, wide receiver Alshon Jeffrey for the Philadelphia Eagles. Offensive tackle Lane Johnson for the Eagles is week to week with an ankle injury, and he might not play again this season with the Eagles' playoff hopes hanging in the balance. Marcus Davenport, the Saints' edge rusher, is out for the year with a foot injury. Wide receiver Mike Evans is not expected to play again this year after a hamstring injury that he suffered on Sunday. Wide receiver Calvin Ridley is also on IR with an abdominal injury for the Falcons, ending his season. Washington Redskins running back Darius Geis, his season is over as well. He suffered a left MCL sprain, so he is on injured reserve. And 49ers wide receiver Marquise Goodwin has been placed on injured reserve as well. And last week, my dude Drew Sample went on injured reserve, thus continuing to thin out the tight end room for my fantasy football team and continuing to concern me.
Hate to see it, Chief. Bunch of injuries.
Absolutely, and one of the few good things about less football games being played as we get towards the playoffs is that there's going to be less injuries. Let's wrap this one up, but before we do, just a couple of things I wanted to talk about. We already talked a bit about the Bills game. Let's talk about something interesting regarding the Steelers and sacks. So the Steelers set a team record for sacks 2 years ago with 56. They're actually on pace to break that record right now. They're on pace for 59. In addition to that, a half sack real quick, the last time a team had 60 sacks in a season was the Carolina Panthers in, I think, 2006, 2007. So it's been over a decade, and the Steelers have a chance to do that. And then, in addition to that, a half sack from Bud Dupree, which, by the way, he should get at least half. I think he should get a whole sack, because right now that extra sack at the end from that Kyler Murray fumble it's listed as a team sack. I don't know if you know that.
Oh, yeah, I said that.
Oh, that's right, you did. But isn't that... I've never seen it just listed as a team sack before. I'm pretty sure it can't stand like that.
That's really weird. It should be credited to Bud Dupree.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, he was the guy that ended up downing Murray anyway, so hopefully he'll get that. And if that happens, he'll have 10 sacks on the season, meaning that it'll be the 6th time in Steelers history that two players have had 10-plus sacks in a season. The first pair, now of course sacks weren't a stat until 1982. That would join the pair of Greg Lloyd and Kevin Green in 1994. Jason Gilden and Joey Porter in 2000, and James Harrison and Lamar Woodley, who did it 3 times between 2008 and 2010. And also, don't forget, Cameron Hayward has 8 sacks himself. If he gets 2 more this season, I don't believe that there's ever been an instance where 3 Steelers players have had 10 sacks in a season. That's 30 sacks between 3 players if they can get it, and that would be just wild.
And that'd be insane. And just to add to your list of stats, since 1970, only one team has led the NFL outright in both sacks and takeaways for a full non-strike shortened season, and that only other team is the 1974 Steelers, the original Steel Curtain, and the Super Bowl champions of that year. So that's something to keep in mind as well. This the team is currently leading in sacks and takeaways, and that's pretty great stuff.
They're on pace to have like 35 plus takeaways, which is the most they've had in, well, a long time.
They're at 33 now, only 2 away with a few games to go.
And one of those games, of course, against the Buffalo Bills on Sunday night, flexed into prime time. Early thoughts on Sunday night's game, Austin?
Good. I mean, just announcing the color rush uniforms is great, and I feel good. I like that it's extra time. I'm hoping for Juju Smith-Schuster to be ready. We were told that him and James Conner will be participating in practice in some fashion this week. I think that would be a big help to be able to have Tre'Davious White on Juju and have James Washington, Deontay Johnson be on the next 2 next 2 cornerbacks, I should say. But I feel good.
I look at it as Steelers in prime time this time of the year. They're a group that's been there and done it, and the Bills just aren't. Now, that being said, there's still a game to be played, but I feel good that it should be at least competitive.
Yeah, I agree.
Alrighty, we'll be back later in the week to preview the Steelers and Bills game. And until then, if you have any questions about the show or the Steelers, feel free to email us at strongerthansteelpodcast@gmail.com. Check out our website, strongerthansteelnfl.blogspot.com, to check out our episodes posted on both SoundCloud and YouTube, as well as our various social media platforms as well. Austin, thank you so much for joining me tonight and talking Steelers Cardinals. And Steelers Nation, ladies and gentlemen, thank you, as always, for listening to the Stronger Than Steel podcast.
Good day.
You have been listening to Stronger Than Steel podcast. Thank you for joining us today, and don't forget to check out our website listed in the description below.